Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to start the Sincerely Jen Tribbiani travel bag sew along. This sew along will take place in the Backstitch Backroom on Facebook, so be sure to join the group because that's where I'll be doing the drawing for all the prizes that I have at the end of the week. That's where you'll post your progress every day, so make sure that you join the group in the description of the video below. We're going to be sewing, like I said, the Sincerely Jen pattern. I also have an exclusive discount code for the pattern in the Backstitch Backroom group if you didn't snag one when they had their sale last week. So if you would like to join us and have fun, make yourself a travel bag and have a chance to win some awesome prizes, stick around and let's get started. So the Tribbiani bag comes in 3 different sizes. There's a small size, more of a handbag style. There's a medium size, which I think it's more like a weekender bag than that I'm going to be doing. That's actually the size that I'll be doing right now. And there is also a large size that it's more spacious, maybe for a few days trip, maybe a couple of days, depending on how heavy of a packer you are, how big of a packer you are. I'll be doing the medium size for 2 reasons. 1, it's more manageable to keep in the video frame, and 2, and actually the main reason is that the medium size will fit on an 18-inch roll of vinyl. This is an 18-inch roll of vinyl from the next Backstitch round. This is the tarot print that I will be using for my bag. This is a new base that Backstitch is bringing in. It's a textured base that's for a little thinner than our regular smooth front base that I featured on my channel before and you've seen in the Backstitch Backroom before and in the main Backstitch group. This is a textured print, a textured base. I don't know how well you can see it, as opposed to the smooth base. Give me a second to grab a smooth one and show you. Here, this is smooth and this is textured. You can see the difference. They're both excellent quality, so it depends on what your preference is and what project you want to make. For me, I wanted this texture. 1, to show it to all of you, and 2, because I want to try something new. So I will be using 18-inch rolls. Unfortunately, the largest size of the bag, it's about 22 inches tall, I think. I did print the pattern in the hopes of making the large one initially, but it was taller. I needed a bigger roll, and the Backstitch ones only come in 18-inch roll maximum. So if you're making the tall one, most vinyl companies do send out 18 or smaller tall height rolls. So I encourage you to use yardage of fabric for the tall one, because otherwise it won't fit, or you can piece it together. But if you wanted one solid piece like the pattern calls for, I recommend you use fabric by the yard, not by the roll, because it's not going to be tall enough. But the medium size looks big enough for a weekend trip to Disney, let's say. And so that will work just fine. So I'll be using this vinyl for the main parts of the bag. For the bottom of the bag, I'm using this stunning glitter vinyl that I'm actually testing for Amber from Backstitch Prints. So this might pop. You might see this one for pre-order soon-ish. So this is one that I'm actually testing for her right now, and I think it goes great with this. Of course, all my hardware and zippers are from Wizardry Stitchery and Crafts. I'm going to be using this stunning purple iridescent daylight zipper tape with a super cool zipper pull. Come on. There. Look how pretty it is. It is so pretty. This will be up for grabs very soon in Wizardry. Links to everything that I'm using will be in the description of the video. I'm also using number 3 zipper pull and zipper tape for the inside pocket. If you don't have number 3, not a problem, just use a number 5. You might need to make the inside of the pocket a little bigger. We'll talk about it when we get to those steps, but the pattern does call for number 3, so that's what I'm using. Also from Wizardry. I have my hardware. You need 2 swivel clips. I'm going to be using, most of my webbing will be 1 inch because that's the hardware that I have in my house. And you know that I like to use what I have, so I'd rather adjust the pattern than spend more money on different webbing. So I'll be using 1 inch hardware. This is 1 inch swivel clips from Wizardry. I also have 4 rectangle rings that are needed for the pattern, also 1 inch. Now, go figure, I ran out of 1 inch D-rings. So until I get with Wizardry to purchase some more, I did find 1.5. This is so weird. I did find 1.5 D-rings, so I'll be using those. I'll show you what adjustments I'll be making. So these are actually what the pattern calls for, 1.5 inch D-rings. So for my main webbing, I have 1 inch glow-in-the-dark webbing that will be part of this pre-order, the Halloween pre-order with backstitch prints. So this is what I'll be using for my main webbing. Because I have 1.5 inch D-rings for my side panels, I have I'm going to be using just the connector part will be 1.5 inch webbing because I had this in the house. So yeah, it's gonna be a mix and match of 1.5 and 1 inch based on all the hardware that I have. I'm just trying to show you that you can work with what you have. You don't have to go out for this Sew Along and start purchasing a million interfaces, a million hardware types, various zippers. Now, if you want to, you know, I'm encouraging you to shop if you want to, but if you want to make the bag and you have some of it at home, work with what we have, work with what you have and adjust the pattern accordingly. It's not a big deal if you have 1 inch webbing and 1 inch D-rings to just do 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches. And same for this one. I only had 1.5 inch D-ring, so I'm gonna do the connector part only with 1.5 inch webbing. So, and you'll see that it's not a big deal. Work with what you have. I also wanted to take a second to show you this stunning webbing. I'm not gonna use it for this project, but this is part of the pre-order too. Come on. This is what I wanted to show you, this stunning monochromatic roses webbing that will be part of the pre-order. This is just a digression from the video. It's just because I wanted to show you how pretty it is. I won't be using it for this project, but I will be using it for a different project soon. Alright, so we talked outer part, we talked connectors, we talked webbing. Let's move on to the inside parts of the bag. So you will need lining. If you're using cotton woven, you can definitely use cotton woven. You'll need to interface it. I'm using waterproof canvas for all my linings, so it's not interfaced with anything. This black waterproof canvas. I already cut these pieces out. You will also need Thermolam or fusible fleece. I am using Thermolam because I like it better than fusible fleece. If you don't want it to be soft, the bag, you could use, instead of Thermolam, you could use Decovil Light, or you could use the Geeky Fuse Poly Heart interfacing that's offered at the Wizardry Stitchery and Crafts. I do like to have a little softness in this bag, so I will use Thermolam as instructed in the pattern. You will need also woven interfacing to interface your main pieces and your lining, should your lining not be waterproof canvas. For my woven interfacing, I am using the Wizardry Stitchery and Crafts Poly Soft Interfacing, which is comparable to SF101. They also offer it in cotton. This is poly, but there's also a cotton version. I will link the video in the description below where I talk about the difference between all of them, so you can make an informed decision. And last but not least, you also need, for your bottom of the bag, you also need 2 pieces, and you have a separate pattern piece for that, of heavy stabilizer, firm stabilizer. And in my case, I'm using Decovil Heavy. If you don't have access to Decovil Heavy, you can definitely use Peltex. Just make sure that you cut 2 of those using the pattern piece. So I have everything cut except for my vinyl, because I wanted to cut that with you on camera and chit chat a little bit. So once I cut all my pattern pieces, I'll go ahead and interface them with my heat press. I will link the video with that I have on my channel with interfacing with the heat press. This way this video won't be super long. So what I like to do when I cut my fabric or my pattern pieces, I like to cut my interfacing first, because it's usually thinner than than the vinyl, and it's easier to use when I have a pattern that says cut on fold. It's easier to cut the interfacing on fold and then simply use the cut piece as my template to cut the vinyl. So this glitter vinyl will be on the bottom. So as you can see, I have my bottom interfacing cut. So I'm simply placing that on top using a couple of pattern weights. It makes it easier for me instead of drawing. Sometimes I do draw the shape on the vinyl, but most of the time I like to just cut my interfacing first and use that as a template. So this will be the bottom of the medium size. First day of the sew along is reserved to cutting your pattern pieces and interfacing them all. So that's all we'll be doing today. We won't be sewing. This is usually the longest process of bag making, I find. So we have for the bottom my vinyl, my woven interfacing, the thermolam, and then a lining that's also cut. So that is done. Next up, we'll be doing the pattern pieces. Before we get to that, there's also some cutting instructions. I like to just cut that one and tape it to one of the pattern pieces. This way I know I always have it when if I make this again, and which I'm sure I will be making it again. So that's what you see there. Let's go ahead and do the main fabric, main pieces. And again, if I do it this way, I also, if you have a fabric that you want to feature, it also helps with that. This poly is slightly transparent, so I can slightly see the image under it. This way I know if I have something that I want to be featured, I can definitely be helped by this. I really don't. I like everything that's on this pattern, on this print, so I just want to maximize my cut. I do fussy cut some things, but in this case I don't think I need to. Okay, so you will need 2 of those. Let's see if it's enough on this one. If it's not enough, I have one more roll that I can use. And it won't work. Unfortunately, it's not gonna be enough for this one. It is somewhat of a directional print or no? I'm trying to figure out if it's a tossed or directional. Because if I put it like this, ooh, I could. Or is it upside down? See, I'm having a hard time. I know this one is good, but most of them do look upside down. So I'm going to go and keep this for the sides and just use this second roll to cut. Okay, perfect. So we'll be cutting on this part. And you need, like I said, 2 of these with 2 woven interfacings and 2 thermolam. One day I will make the big bag too. This is the medium size, but I plan on making the big one with maybe our woven. This is so pretty. Let's see if you can see the texture. Come on. Okay. Can you see the texture? So pretty. Okay, so the 2 main pieces are cut. I have the interfaces ready for them. So now we need to cut the side pieces and then the webbing. So for the side pieces, I should have here. These are the side pieces. So let's see if it fits here. Nope, it doesn't fit there, but it will fit here. I'm trying to minimize the loss of vinyl. My precious vinyl. Okay, and you need 2 of those. And of course, same interfacings as before. So woven interfacing and then thermolam. And we need 1 more. Well, it fits here, it does. Just want to make sure I don't get into this cut. Okay, perfect. The little scraps of vinyl are great for embroidery projects, very small pouches. I don't tend to keep a lot of scraps, but for vinyl this is considered probably a large scrap. Okay, so the vinyl is cut. Let's see on my cutting list what else I have to cut. I need the handle connectors, and I need 4 of them. and the sizes will vary depending on which size are you making. I'm looking for my lighter. Oh, I put it here. I do like to seal my webbing to make sure it doesn't fray. So I need 4 of these. Again, check the pattern for the length because it will vary depending on which size bag you're making. And seal all the ends of your webbing as you go so you don't forget. Also, I know a lot of the times we like to make our own straps, and I'm all for that, especially if you want to match your bag. However, there's so much webbing in this pattern, I wouldn't recommend making your own. I highly recommend getting actual webbing for this project. Okay, so these are my connector handles. Then I need 2 handles. Okay. And seal. And then I need 2 side connectors. And my side connectors are the ones that are going to be orange-ish because I have, like I said before, I have D-ring that's 1.5. Okay, so this is 1.5. Yeah, 1.5. I think I got this one on Amazon. I'm not sure. I've had it for a while. Seal in your sides. Okay, then we need a shoulder strap. My shoulder strap is 46, so 24 plus 22 equals 46. And there you go. Seal this one in. Amber did send me enough webbing for the large one, but I didn't know that I couldn't do the large one because of the height of the rolls. So I have a little bit left. Okay, so this is cut. I did cut the zipper pocket based on the measurements in the pattern. I already have it made of waterproof canvas. I'm also going to show you how to make sleeve for your carry-on, so you can put this bag on your carry-on and not have to hold it. So that's not included in the pattern, but I will show you how to make it. And for that you need 2 pieces of either interfaced woven, interface with woven interfacing, or you could use vinyl if you want to, of 8.5 by 11.5 inches, so 8 by 11.5. You could use a sheet of paper. Letter paper is 8.5 by 11, I think. So if it's easier to remember, you can use just a sheet of paper as your pattern piece, and you need to cut 2 of those. I think I will be doing those out of waterproof canvas, so I need to go grab that. So I have my waterproof canvas here. I'm using this instead of the vinyl because it's easier to sew right sides together and then right sides together and cut. So like I said, you can use a piece of a blank piece of paper because it has almost the measurements you need if you don't want to measure. So I'm just adding a little bit to the length, about 1/2 inch to the length. And this will be, like I said, for the the sleeve. It's not included in the pattern, but if you want to add it, this is how you can. You don't have to. I just like to slide my bag, my weekender bag, on the carry-on when I go. Okay, so you need this. Everything is now cut. All the interfacing is cut, all the pattern pieces. So what you have to do now is go ahead and interface using your iron or your heat press. And I will interface everything, and I will come back and do like a run around all the pieces with their interfacing, just as a final tally of everything we have. And that's the last thing that we're going to be doing today. See you back here in a second. I am back. I have fused all the interfacing with some changings from the pattern. So I'll try to make it quick, but I wanted to give you a couple of tips. One, my main difference is that I did fuse my fleece to the main, not to the lining. I'm using waterproof canvas for the lining, so it's thick enough, and so I decided to do my fleece to the main and not the lining. You don't have to. You can definitely follow the pattern, especially if you're using woven interfacing, not waterproof canvas, and fuse your fleece to the lining and not the main. So that's one change that I made. I fused everything, so I'll go over the pieces, and as I go over them, I'll give you my pointers. So because I fused the fleece to the main, I sandwiched the fleece in between the woven interfacing and the main. I don't like, it's a sensory thing, so I don't like the feel of fleece against my hands. It's I'm sure some of you will relate with sensory issues. I do have quite a few of those. So a fleece against my hands is not something that gives me any comfort. So I put my fleece in between the woven interfacing and the vinyl. This way I will never feel it. So again, personal preference, the pattern does call for the fleece to be fused to the lining. So you have two side pieces of the outer with their interfacings, two lining pieces of for the side pieces. Okay, you should also have your interior zipper pocket, which is two pieces, in my case, of waterproof canvas. This will be for your interior. We also have two outer pieces, and again, these are fused with in my case, fleece and woven interfacing. If you're using adding the fleece to the lining as per the pattern, then this will have just woven interfacing. I also went ahead and marked, if you can see, it's too bright. I marked my, you can see it here. I marked the seam lines on all four corners. It's a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and it's easy to miss it. And if you want the back to look nice at the corners when you want to fold it, you do want to make sure that you follow it. So the easiest way is to take your pattern piece. Come on. So take your pattern piece, and what I did is I cut a hole following this seam, placed it on top, and just trace it with my friction pen on all corners. See? So all of them have this marking done already, so it's going to be easier when I sew. So this is another pattern piece, and of course you will have the lining that goes with it. And last but not least, you should have your bottom piece, which is this stiff, now very stiff piece, because it has 2 layers of Decovil Heavy. This is like super stiff now. So it's one glitter vinyl that, like, again, I'm testing this for backstitch print, and then I sandwiched 2 layers of Decovil Heavy inside. Then on top of that I added my fleece because I didn't want to put it on the lining piece, also because I'm using waterproof canvas and I don't know how well that takes to interfacing. So the fleece is right here, and then on top of it all I put the woven interfacing. So I have 1 layer of vinyl, 2 layers of Decovil Heavy, 1 layer of fleece, and 1 layer of woven interfaced sandwich here. That's why it's like super hard right now. One tip that I have for you, because the Decovil Heavy is cut smaller than the edge to reduce the bulk in the seams, you might find that when you interface in this order, your heat press won't make it all the way to the edge. So you might see that this is pressed and bonded perfectly, whereas the side edge are peeling off. It's because of the thickness, because your heat press feels this thickness like so. So there's a little space here which will not make it easy to interface the edges where the seam allowance will be. So what I like to do, I like to put my panel and just this 1/2 inch part in the heat press, so on the edge of the heat press, press it, and that will seal in all the edges. This way I know the heat press will just grab on this thickness, not the whole thing. So it will seal in the edges very well. If you're using an iron to interface, then just do the tip of your iron along the edges to make sure everything is fused properly. So that's my tip for you. If you know your sewing machine won't handle all these layers with fusible fleece and woven interfacing and vinyl and waterproof canvas, if you know your machine will not be in love with this process, my suggestion is to take all your fleece pieces prior to interfacing them and just trim 1/2 inch around all the edges. This will basically make the seam allowance, basically make the bulk of the seam allowance much smaller. So you won't be stitching on the fleece, it will just be fused on the inside, kind of like the Decovil Heavies for this already. I don't think I'll have a problem, but I'm also using an industrial machine which does not mind all the layers. But if you're using a domestic that you know will not love all the layers, I do encourage you to trim the fleece prior to fusing it 1/2 inch all around, all the pieces, just to be on the safe side. And of course I have 1 lining piece of waterproof canvas. I have these 2 extra pieces that I talked to you earlier for the sleeve that I'm going to be putting, the carry-on sleeve. These are not included in the pattern, but I did give you the measurements earlier for them. You should also have, like I said, your zippers and your hardware. So at this point you are pretty much, oh, and your webbing that we've cut earlier. At this point you are pretty much ready to get started. So before we do that tomorrow, for today, your last duty, your last job for today is to snap a picture of all your pretty pattern pieces interfaced and ready to go, and post it in the comments of day 1 photo of the Sew Along album that's in the Backstitch Backroom on Facebook. Again, link to everything I'm talking about, links to everything will be in the description of the video, so make sure to join in the Sew Along for a chance to win great prizes and for a chance to sew yourself, not a chance, a fact, to sew yourself a beautiful Tribbiani travel bag this week that you get to use for a long time. So do that and then come back here on my channel and in the Backstitch Backroom tomorrow when we'll be sewing steps 1 through 6 of the pattern. Talk to you soon.